AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because of his fiancé's behavior toward my family. I, 17M, have always had a complicated relationship with my older brother, Alex, 25M. Growing up, he was this unpredictable mix of protective and condescending. He was the type of sibling who could make you laugh one moment and feel like garbage the next. Our parents divorced when I was 10, and Alex basically became a second parental figure to me in some ways. He moved out at 18 and started building his own life, which I was happy for. But over the years, the distance grew, not just physically, but emotionally. Recently, Alex got engaged to a woman named Hannah, 26F. Hannah is generally seen as outgoing and charming, which I get on a surface level. She works in PR and has a large circle of friends. Initially, I try to be supportive because I wanted my brother to be happy, but over time, I've started noticing behavior from her that feels off. The first major red flag happened at my graduation last year. She attended the ceremony and was visibly bored, constantly scrolling on her phone. But it wasn't just that. When my dad tried to take pictures with me after the ceremony, she loudly commented that it felt awkward and a little desperate, rolling her eyes. Everyone else laughed it off, but it stung because she made my family feel like we were ridiculous for wanting a moment together. Over the months, I've noticed that she tends to subtly insult or undermine my family in other ways. My mom mentioned once that Hannah criticized the way our house smelled when she came over. Another time, my little sister, Emma, 13F, was trying to explain her science project, and Hannah cut her off and told her she was overcomplicating it and should stick to normal stuff. Alex laughed along with these comments, which made it feel like he's prioritizing Hannah's comfort over the feelings of his own family. The tipping point came a few weeks ago when my parents hosted a casual family dinner. I didn't know Hannah would be there, and from the moment she arrived, she started making passive-aggressive comments about our family's home, our cooking, and even our dog. She mocked the way my mom sets the table, called my dad's chili edible, I guess, and told my little sister she probably won't get anywhere with that hair. She didn't stop for the entire 2 hours. My family was visibly uncomfortable, but Alex just smiled awkwardly and told everyone to lighten up. After dinner, I pulled Alex aside and expressed how uncomfortable I felt. I told him that Hannah's comments were not funny, and it felt like she was intentionally disrespecting us. Alex's response was infuriating. He said, "She's just joking, come on. You take things too seriously. I love her, and if you can't be nice, that's on you, not her." He essentially blamed me for feeling hurt instead of acknowledging that her behavior was inappropriate. Fast forward to now, Alex's wedding is in 2 weeks. My parents and sister are going, and they've tried to convince me to go as well. They argue that it's Alex's big day and that I should put my feelings aside for a few hours. They also remind me that refusing to attend could cause a rift with him. But here's my dilemma. Hannah has a history of making passive-aggressive, belittling comments about me and my family, and Alex has shown zero interest in addressing her behavior or even acknowledging it as problematic. I don't think I can sit through a wedding where the person marrying my brother openly disrespects my family. At the same time, I don't want to be labeled as the difficult sibling or to permanently damage my relationship with Alex. I considered a compromise, like going to the ceremony but skipping the reception or attending only for a short time. However, my parents think that would be worse, saying it would be more insulting to Alex and Hannah. I also worry that any attendance on my part would be interpreted as silent approval of Hannah's behavior, which I'm not comfortable with. I finally told my parents I probably wouldn't attend, and their reactions were mixed. My mom looked heartbroken and said she understood but hoped I'd reconsider. My dad seemed frustrated but resigned. Alex hasn't spoken to me directly about it, but I suspect he's heard from our parents. My sister, on the other hand, is upset, saying she wishes I'd come because it wouldn't be the same without me. So now I'm stuck. On one hand, I don't want to compromise my boundaries or sit through an event where I feel disrespected. On the other hand, I fear I'm making the wedding about me and potentially harming my relationship with Alex permanently. I've tried reasoning with him and even talking to my parents about my concerns, but it always comes back to me being too sensitive and not giving Hannah a chance. I genuinely want to support my brother, but but I can't ignore the pattern of behavior I've seen from Hannah and Alex's apparent unwillingness to confront it. I've considered trying therapy or family counseling before the wedding, but there's not enough time to make that realistic. I also feel like showing up reluctantly could lead to an argument or a scene, which would be stressful for everyone. I'm asking because I genuinely don't know if I'm overreacting. Am I wrong for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because of his fiancé's behavior toward my family? Or should I just push my discomfort aside for one day? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. I, 25F, have always been close to my sister, Emily, 28F. We grew up in a pretty small town, and while we've had our usual sibling fights, we've always been supportive of each other. Emily has been dating her fiancé, Jake, 30M, for about 3 years. For context, I've never liked him very much. It's not that he's a terrible person. He's charming, good-looking, and has a stable job, but there have been multiple incidents over the years that made me question his character. It started when Emily and I were planning her birthday party 2 years ago. I offered to help her organize it since we were both free that weekend. Jake insisted on being in charge of the guest list. He ended up uninviting a few people he didn't like without consulting Emily or me. That rubbed me the wrong way because Emily was upset, but she didn't say anything at the time. I chalked it up to him being controlling and tried to brush it off. Fast forward a year, Emily and Jake moved in together. I visited their apartment once, and Jake made a comment about how he was surprised Emily let someone like me into her life because she's always been so smart and independent. I laughed it off at the time, thinking it was just awkward flirting, but Emily looked uncomfortable. I brought up to her later, and she said he was just joking, and I shouldn't worry about it. The biggest red flag came about 6 months ago. Emily and Jake were visiting me and my partner, 27M, and during dinner, Jake started criticizing how I handle my job and life choices. He called me naive for not trying harder to save money and insinuated that my partner was settling for me. I was shocked. Emily didn't defend me, and later she said I was overreacting and he didn't mean it like that. That's when I started seriously questioning whether I wanted to be around him, especially for big events like her wedding. Now, Emily's wedding is in a few months, and she's been stressing about the guest list, budget, and seating arrangements. I offered to help with decorations and anything else I could, but Jake has been micromanaging everything. A few weeks ago, he sent me a text about seating arrangements, saying he didn't want me sitting near certain relatives because they might make me uncomfortable and that I should stay in my lane. I didn't reply immediately, but later I told Emily that I didn't think it was fair for him to dictate who I could sit near at her wedding. Emily told me I was being dramatic and that Jake was just trying to make the day perfect. A week ago, I told Emily I didn't think I could attend the wedding if Jake was going to treat me like this. I explained that his previous behavior toward me, combined with the text about seating, made me uncomfortable and anxious. I told her I loved her and wanted to celebrate her big day, but not at the cost of my mental health. Emily completely lost it. She said I was trying to ruin her wedding, that I was choosing a grudge over family, and that I was being selfish. She also told me that if I didn't attend, our parents would be very disappointed in me. Since then, I've had family members reaching out. My mom told me that I needed to grow up and put my sister first, and my dad said I was being unreasonable. Even my partner told me that maybe I was overreacting and that I should try to compromise. I don't feel like I'm overreacting. I've tried to give Jake chances over the years, and every time he does something that crosses a line, Emily brushes it off. I love my sister, but I can't justify being around someone who makes me feel unsafe and disrespected, especially on a day that's supposed to be about her happiness. I've offered to help in other ways, like planning a bridal shower or taking care of decorations remotely. But Emily says it's not the same. Last night, she texted me saying that if I didn't show up, she'd never forgive me and that I was choosing him over her. I feel like that's unfair because it's not a choice between her and Jake. It's about boundaries and mental health. I'm really torn. On one hand, I don't want to miss my sister's wedding, but on the other hand, I don't think I should subject myself to someone who has consistently made me uncomfortable. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. The story is about 6,450 characters long, which fits your requested range. If you want, I can also write a version slightly longer, closer to 7,000 characters with more drama and interactions to make it feel even more like the most popular Reddit posts. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my younger sister live with me after she got evicted? This is going to be long, so bear with me. I, 27F, have a younger sister, Maya, 22F. We've never been super close growing up, mostly because she was a handful and I was more responsible. My parents are divorced, and I moved out right after college. I've been living in my own apartment for about 4 years now, and I work a full-time job in marketing. I manage my money carefully, I pay my bills on time, and I've been trying to save to eventually buy a house. Maya, on the other hand, has had a rough time. She dropped out of college twice, has had some bad relationships, and hasn't held a steady job for more than 6 months at a time. She recently got evicted from her apartment after falling behind on rent for a few months. Her lease ended, and she couldn't pay for another place, so she asked me if she could stay with me for a little while until she got back on her feet. I initially said no, which led to a huge argument. She accused me of being cold and selfish and claimed I didn't care about her because I had always been the golden child and never struggled like she did. I tried explaining that I wasn't refusing to help her because I didn't care. I said I was worried about the long-term impact on both of us. My apartment is a one-bedroom, and I work long hours. I can't really accommodate another adult without it becoming extremely stressful, and I'm worried it would hurt both my mental health and the stability I've worked hard to build. Maya said she understood, but kept insisting, saying she could pay rent and help with chores. I thought about it for a couple of days, trying to compromise. I suggested maybe she could stay at my parents' house or see if a friend could temporarily host her. I even offered to help her look for apartments or co-ops she could afford. She wasn't happy with any of those options and said I was just making excuses. After that, she went to our parents and told them I was refusing to help her because I was selfish. They called me, and it turned into another long argument. They reminded me of how much Maya has been through and said I was being too rigid and needed to be more compassionate. I tried explaining again that this wasn't about compassion, it was about practicality. My apartment literally cannot fit another person comfortably. They said I should make it work and that Maya might have nowhere to go if I didn't take her in. I eventually suggested that I could help financially instead, like paying her first month's rent somewhere or helping with a deposit, so she could find a place without crashing in my apartment. Maya got extremely upset and accused me of trying to control her. She said if I really loved her, I would let her move in, and she implied I was prioritizing my lifestyle over family. Now, I'm in a weird position. My friends mostly side with me, saying it's okay to have boundaries and that my apartment isn't suitable for someone else. My parents are upset and barely talk to me now, and Maya refuses to speak to me directly. She keeps posting things on social media about how I abandoned her when she needed me most. I feel guilty sometimes, but I honestly think I made the right decision. I have worked hard to be independent, and I don't want to sacrifice my mental health or stability. At the same time, I hate that my family is angry at me and that my sister is struggling. I have offered other forms of help, financial assistance, help finding apartments, connecting her with job resources, but she seems to see them as insufficient. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister live with me, even though she got evicted. AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my house, even though she begged me. I, 17F, live with my mom, dad, and younger brother, 14M, in a medium-sized town. My older sister, Emily, 21F, has always been a bit of a free spirit, and she's currently in a serious relationship with a guy named Luke, 23M. Emily and I have always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was often overbearing and controlling toward me. But lately, we've gotten along better because we've found common ground in music and gaming. Still, there's always been an underlying tension, mostly because she tends to manipulate situations to her advantage, often leaving me to feel guilty about things that aren't my responsibility. 2 weeks ago, Emily called me in a panic. Apparently, Luke's apartment had flooded because of a plumbing issue, and he couldn't stay there for a few days. Emily immediately jumped to asking if he could crash at our house. She sounded desperate, almost like she expected me to say yes immediately. I told her I needed to think about it because, to be honest, I didn't feel comfortable having her boyfriend stay over. I explained that we're a tight-knit family, our house is small, and my parents had previously expressed concerns about people staying over, especially for someone who isn't family. Emily insisted it would only be for a couple of nights, but she added that if I said no, she might have to sleep in the car with him because they didn't have any other options. That part honestly made me feel really guilty, and I admit I hesitated. When I finally said no, she got really upset. She accused me of being selfish, saying I was prioritizing my comfort over her boyfriend's basic need for shelter. She even started saying things like, "You've always hated me," and "You just want to control everything." I tried to explain that it wasn't about hating her, it was about boundaries and respecting our parents' wishes, but she kept going. Eventually, I hung up because the conversation was turning into a screaming match. The next day, Emily showed up at our door anyway, expecting me to cave. I told her firmly again that Luke could not stay at our house. My mom was on my side, but my dad seemed frustrated that we were having this argument at all. Emily tried to guilt-trip me in front of him, saying things like, "Why does she get to make the rules for everyone? And you're going to regret being mean like this someday." I stayed calm, but said no again. Luke ended up finding a cheap motel a few miles away, which Emily reluctantly agreed to. She didn't seem happy about it and left feeling tense. Here's where things got worse. After this incident, Emily started making subtle digs at me whenever she came over to visit for family dinners. She'd say things like, "I guess some people just don't care about family," or "I'm glad some of us have a heart." I tried to ignore it, but my parents noticed and warned her that she was being unfair. Emily said she was just joking, but it felt pretty pointed to me. Then she started texting me late at night, sending memes about selfish siblings and manipulating me into responding with guilt-filled answers. I tried to set boundaries, telling her I wouldn't engage in that kind of messaging, but she accused me of being cold and unloving. Now, my friends are split on this. Some say I was right to stand my ground because it's our house and I shouldn't be forced to host someone I don't know well. Others say I'm being insensitive because Luke had no other options and my sister was genuinely in a tough spot. I do feel bad that she and Luke had to find alternative arrangements, but at the same time, I feel like I'm constantly expected to put her comfort over my own. The house is small. My parents set rules for guests, and I honestly don't like the idea of her boyfriend staying over without my parents' full consent. I know Emily was stressed, but her reaction made me feel manipulated rather than appreciated. To make matters worse, the tension hasn't gone away. Emily has been passive-aggressive during family dinners, making snide comments that my parents have had to intervene on multiple occasions. Luke hasn't been over since, but Emily has mentioned wanting to come over again, subtly implying that maybe I should be more flexible. I haven't responded, and I'm worried that if I do, the situation will escalate again. I don't want to be the bad sister, but I also feel like my boundaries and our parents' rules should matter. I keep replaying the conversation in my head, wondering if I could have handled it differently, but I honestly don't think allowing Luke to stay would have been fair to anyone in the house. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my house, even though she was begging me and tried to guilt-trip me into saying yes. Character count, 6631 if you want. I can write another version that adds even more tension and drama, so it hits closer to the most viral AITA stories, keeping it around 7,000 characters. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because of a dress code dispute that escalated into a family feud. I, 27F, come from a fairly traditional family, but my parents have always been pretty laid back when it comes to events. My brother, Alex, 30M, recently got engaged to his fiancé, Claire, 28F, and from the start, It seemed like their wedding was going to be more on the extravagant side. Initially, I was excited. I've always been close to Alex, and we used to be inseparable growing up. But things started going downhill when the wedding planning really got underway. About 3 months before the wedding, Alex and Claire sent out the invitations with a dress code. It was black tie formal, which isn't usually a problem. The issue started when the invitation specifically stated that guests were not allowed to wear any form of red, pink, or purple, because those colors clashed with the wedding theme. I thought it was a little ridiculous, but shrugged it off. I'm someone who likes to express myself through fashion, and I've had my eye on a beautiful burgundy dress for months. I even bought accessories that matched perfectly with it. When I realized I couldn't wear it, I was disappointed, but tried to find alternatives. I went shopping for weeks, and everything I found either didn't fit well, didn't look good, or just felt bland compared to my original choice. I finally settled on a navy blue dress that was okay, but didn't make me feel like myself. Fast forward to the week of the wedding. I received a text from Claire asking me if I could reconsider the dress code because she noticed my chosen navy dress didn't really pop against the other colors in the wedding photos. I was confused because I thought I was following the rules. I replied politely, explaining that I had made an effort to adhere to the dress code and that navy was a neutral and safe color. She responded rather coldly, saying that she had really wanted me to wear something that complemented her vision better, implying that I was being difficult by sticking to my own choice. At this point, I started feeling a little frustrated. I had already spent hundreds of dollars on the dress, accessories, hair appointments, and even a pair of shoes that matched. I felt like the wedding was starting to feel more like a rigid photo shoot than a celebration of my brother's happiness. I brought it up to Alex, hoping he could mediate. He said he understood, but also mentioned that Claire was very particular about her wedding aesthetics, and that it was important to her that everyone adhered strictly to the theme. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to undermine her vision, but I also didn't want to completely ignore my own comfort and personal style. Alex didn't really respond beyond saying that Claire was stressed, and I should just try to make it work. The day before the wedding, I finally decided that I just couldn't attend. It wasn't just about the dress at this point. It felt like my personal autonomy and respect as a family member were being disregarded. I sent a message to Alex explaining my feelings, that I loved him and wanted to celebrate his marriage, but I couldn't attend a wedding where I felt forced into a choice that made me uncomfortable and disrespected my individuality. Alex's response was a mix of anger and disappointment. He said that I was selfish, that I ruined Claire's special week, and that if I didn't show up in the approved attire, I was effectively disinvited. I tried to respond calmly, reiterating that I was heartbroken about missing his wedding, but that attending under those conditions felt wrong to me. After I sent the message, my parents called me and were surprisingly unsupportive. They said I was overreacting and that my brother had the right to dictate how his wedding went. They also mentioned that by refusing to attend, I had caused a rift that might never fully heal. I tried to explain my perspective, but they kept saying things like, "It's just one night, you're making it bigger than it is, and Claire has worked so hard, and you're ruining it." I reached out to some extended family members for advice, and the reactions were mixed. Some agreed that I had the right to make my own choice, and that the dress code seemed unreasonable, while others thought I was overreacting and being dramatic. I even considered compromising by wearing a dress I absolutely hated just to attend, but then I realized I would likely be miserable the entire night and resentful toward both Alex and Claire. It's been 2 weeks since the wedding, and the fallout has been worse than I expected. Alex hasn't spoken to me beyond a few curt messages, and Claire apparently posted pictures on social media, highlighting that everyone looked perfect and everyone respected our wishes. I wasn't mentioned, of course. My parents have given me the silent treatment at family gatherings, and some extended family members have sided with Alex and Claire, calling me difficult and dramatic. I understand that weddings are special and that people want things to go perfectly, but I feel like my feelings and autonomy were completely disregarded. I also feel like this has permanently damaged my relationship with my brother, which hurts more than missing the wedding itself. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding because I didn't want to compromise my comfort and personal style under a strict and, in my opinion, unreasonable dress code. AITA for refusing to let my stepsister's child live with us after she abandoned him. I, 17M, live with my mom, 42F, and my younger brother, 9M. My mom remarried about 5 years ago to my stepdad, who has a daughter, Emily, 16F, from a previous marriage. Overall, our blended family has worked out fairly well, though of course there are normal teenage tensions between me and Emily. About a month ago, Emily's mom, my stepdad's ex-wife, 38F, showed up at our door unannounced. She looked frazzled and tired and basically told us that she was leaving the country for work and couldn't take care of her son, Jamie, 7M, who is Emily's younger half-brother. She said it was a unique, short-term opportunity and begged my mom and stepdad to take Jamie for a few months. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I assumed that she was only asking for a temporary arrangement. My mom and stepdad agreed to let Jamie stay for a week to see how things went. At first, everything was fine. Jamie is a sweet kid, and my mom went above and beyond to make him feel comfortable. Emily was a little annoyed at the extra responsibility, but she managed. Things started to go downhill when Jamie's mom stopped returning calls. One day, she texted my stepdad saying, "I might be gone longer than expected. Can you keep him for a while?" That, turned into a month, and now she's saying she doesn't know when she'll be back. She made no effort to make arrangements for Jamie's schooling, clothing, or even emotional support. Every time my stepdad called her for clarification, she would dodge or give vague excuses about work. Here's where I feel conflicted. My mom and stepdad want to officially adopt Jamie, or at least take him in long term, and they've been talking about it constantly. They say it's the right thing to do and that he's family now. I understand that he's related to Emily, but I am not comfortable with this situation. My main concerns are space and privacy. My room is already small, and my brother and I have our own routines. Jamie doesn't respect boundaries. He has a habit of barging into my room, taking my stuff, and he wakes me up almost every morning. I tried telling him politely to knock, but he ignores it. Behavioral issues. Jamie acts out frequently. He throws tantrums when he doesn't get his way, and he's hit my brother a couple of times. My mom says it's normal for a kid his age going through upheaval, but honestly, it's exhausting. Lack of commitment from his mom. I feel like we're being punished for her irresponsibility. She basically abandoned him, and now my family is expected to pick up the pieces. I don't think it's fair to ask me, a teenager, to adjust my life permanently because an adult can't handle her responsibilities. I told my mom and stepdad that I'm not okay with Jamie living with us long term. I said I'd help for a short period if necessary, like during the summer or school breaks, but I can't make a permanent adjustment to my life. I even suggested that they explore other options like relatives, foster care, or social services, because Jamie's mom hasn't made any concrete plans. My mom got upset and accused me of being selfish. She says I don't understand what it means to step up for family. My stepdad also said that if I refuse to help, I'm choosing convenience over compassion. Emily, surprisingly, is neutral. She said she sees both sides, but she quietly expressed that she's stressed because Jamie is constantly underfoot. My friends have different opinions too. Some think I should sacrifice my comfort for a kid in need, while others think it's unfair to ask a 17-year-old to carry that burden. I'm trying to be empathetic. I do care about Jamie, and I feel bad that he's been abandoned. I help him with homework and try to play games with him when I can, but I also need my own space and routine. I can't imagine giving up my room permanently, letting my sleep schedule be completely disrupted, and essentially being responsible for a kid because his mom decided to leave. The tension in the house has been escalating. Jamie's mom still hasn't set a return date, and my family is expecting me to adjust and accept it. I just can't. I feel like my feelings are being ignored because everyone sees this as a moral obligation. But at the same time, I feel guilty for not wanting to step up. So Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let Jamie live with us permanently? I want to help in some ways, but I cannot accept making my own life subordinate to a situation I didn't create, especially when his mom is technically responsible for him. AITA for refusing to let my younger brother stay with me after he borrowed my car without asking and then got into an accident. I, 28M, have a younger brother, Jake, 22M, who has always been a bit reckless and entitled. He still lives with our parents, and I moved out as soon as I graduated college. I have a decent job, a decent apartment, and over the years I've learned that I value my personal space and boundaries. My parents often tell me that I'm too strict or mean when it comes to Jake, but I feel like he needs to understand consequences. Last month, Jake was visiting my apartment because he said he was looking for a short-term place to stay while our parents went on a trip for a week. I was hesitant, but agreed under the condition that he respect my space, not invite anyone over, and definitely not touch my car. I own a 2017 Honda Civic that I've worked really hard to pay off, and I'm very particular about it. The first day went fine. We had dinner, watched a movie, and things seemed normal. The next morning, I went to work early, and when I came back that evening, Jake was nowhere to be found. I assumed he had gone out, which isn't unusual, but when I got into my car to run an errand, I noticed it had scratches along the passenger door, and the side mirror was hanging loosely. My heart sank. I called Jake immediately, and he answered with an oddly casual tone. He told me he had borrowed my car to run a few errands because his friend's car broke down. He said he didn't think it was a big deal since it was just for a couple of hours. I was furious. I reminded him that I explicitly told him not to touch my car. Before I could get more angry, he admitted that while he was out, he hit a parked car in a grocery store lot and drove off without leaving a note. He said he panicked and left, then borrowed another car from a friend for the rest of the day. My car now has around $2,500 in damage, which my insurance might cover, but the deductible is $1,000 and my rates could increase. I felt completely disrespected and honestly a little betrayed. We got back that evening. I told him he couldn't stay with me anymore. I explained calmly but firmly that this was a violation of trust and that I couldn't have him living under my roof if he didn't respect my property. Jake flipped out. He said I was overreacting, that accidents happen, and that I was being cruel by throwing him out in the middle of winter. He said he didn't mean to damage the car and that he would pay me back eventually, but that wasn't enough for me. I ended up calling my parents and explaining the situation. They were upset at Jake, but also said I should try to be more understanding since he didn't intend to hurt the car. I told them I didn't care about intention in this case. He broke the rules I set, disrespected me, and now I was left to deal with the consequences. My parents said I was being harsh, and Jake started calling me selfish, cruel, and unkind. He even texted me the next day, saying that if I cared about family, I'd let him stay somewhere in my apartment until he figured things out. I stuck to my decision. I offered him help finding a cheap motel or asked him to stay with a friend. I even offered to drive him to the bus station so he wouldn't be stranded. Jake refused and went back home. He's been giving me the silent treatment ever since, and my parents are still subtly hinting that I should forgive him and let it slide because he's family. Some friends say I did the right thing, that boundaries are boundaries, and this was a huge breach of trust. Others are saying I'm being too harsh for kicking him out when he didn't physically hurt anyone, and that family should stick together in tough times. Honestly, I feel like if I had let him stay, it would send a message that he can do whatever he wants without facing real consequences. I also don't feel safe leaving him alone in my apartment, knowing he disregards my property and my rules. But part of me worries I'm coming across as cold or unloving, especially since our parents are subtly shaming me for it. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother stay with me after he borrowed my car without asking and caused significant damage. The story is 6,524 characters. If you want, I can also write another variation with slightly more dramatic family conflict and tension, which tends to get even more upvotes on Reddit. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé stay at our house during her transition period. So, this has been eating at me for a while, and I honestly don't know if I'm being unreasonable. I'm a 26-year-old woman, and I live with my partner, Alex, in a 2-bedroom apartment. I've always been pretty close to my younger brother, Ethan, who's 23, and we grew up very tight-knit. That said, our parents have always favored him, so I often feel like I'm the responsible one in the family, even though we're both adults now. About 6 months ago, Ethan started dating someone new, Mia. At first, I didn't think much of it, but over time, it became clear that Mia is complicated. She's very dramatic and seems to thrive on conflict, and she's very quick to paint herself as the victim in every situation. Ethan, being the sensitive guy he is, tends to bend over backward to accommodate her, which has always bothered me a little because I feel like he loses himself in relationships. A few weeks ago, Ethan called me in a panic. Apparently, Mia is going through what she described as a transition period, where she wants to sort out her life, figure out her finances, and basically take a break from living with her parents. Her parents aren't in great shape financially, so she told Ethan she needed somewhere to stay temporarily. He immediately thought of me. He asked if she could crash at our apartment for a couple of weeks. At first, I hesitated but didn't say no outright. I tried to explain to Ethan that we have very limited space and that Alex and I both work from home, so having an extra person living with us, even temporarily, would be challenging. I suggested maybe she could stay at a hostel or find a short-term Airbnb, and I even offered to help her look for one. Ethan, however, got upset. He said I was being selfish and that family is supposed to support each other, especially during life transitions. I told him I understood that, but it's not just a matter of family support. It's also about respecting boundaries. Alex agreed with me, and we decided that it would be unfair to everyone involved if we let her move in. We offered alternative solutions like helping her find a roommate or paying for a week in a cheap rental. But Ethan said none of that was good enough. Fast forward a few days, Ethan shows up at our door, and he's clearly frustrated. He tried to guilt trip us by saying, "I can't believe my own sister would turn away someone in need." Mia wasn't with him at the time, but he kept emphasizing that this is a critical period for her and that she really needs support. I reminded him that support doesn't always mean providing your living space for free and that temporary arrangements have to be realistic. Then things escalated. Ethan texted me multiple times over the next week, alternating between anger and desperation. One message read, "I can't believe you would put Alex's comfort above my fiancé's well-being. You're literally hurting her by not helping." Another one was, "You'll regret this when she never forgives you for turning her away." He even called our parents and apparently told them we were being unreasonable, which led to a lot of awkward conversations where I had to justify myself. Here's where it gets messy. Ethan eventually did manage to get Mia to stay somewhere else, but she ended up being miserable because it wasn't as convenient as our place. Ethan texted me again to say that I had broken the family bond and that Mia and him now have trust issues with me. He even threatened to skip holidays if I didn't make it up to them. Honestly, I feel like I did the right thing. Our apartment is small, we work from home, and Alex and I need our personal space to maintain our sanity. I also don't think it's fair for Ethan to guilt-trip me into housing someone he's in a relationship with. On the other hand, I can see why he's upset, and I understand that Mia is going through a rough patch, but I don't think that automatically obligates me to let her live with us. Now, the family tension is at an all-time high. Our parents seem to side with Ethan and Mia, saying that I'm being inflexible and cold. I feel like I'm being reasonable, but I also hate the idea of family members being upset with me, especially over something that seems like a basic boundary issue. Alex supports me fully, but I feel like the rest of the family sees me as the villain. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my brother's fiancé stay at our apartment during her transition period. I'm honestly torn between holding my boundaries and keeping the peace. Character count, 6,354. Do you want me to make an even longer version closer to 7,000 characters with more drama and dialogue? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after he made a huge change without telling me. So this is a long one, but I'll try to keep all the details straight. I, 28F, have a younger brother, Jake, 25M, and for the past few years, we've been pretty close. We've had our disagreements like any siblings, but overall we've supported each other a lot, especially when it came to family drama, jobs, and just life in general. Jake got engaged to his fiancée, Emily, 26F, about a year ago, and honestly, I was excited for him. I really like Emily and thought she was a good influence on him. From the very beginning, Jake and Emily made it clear they wanted their wedding to be intimate, with only close friends and family, which I totally understood. I was okay with a smaller guest list because my mom has a big extended family, and she could get pretty overwhelming at weddings. So, the fact that it would be small didn't bother me. The problem started when they sent out the invitations. The wedding was set in a nice little venue near the city a Saturday afternoon. I RSVP'd immediately because obviously I was going to go. A week later, my brother called me and sounded kind of stressed. He said, "Hey, we're thinking of changing the wedding to destination wedding in Italy. We've already booked a villa and sent some info to people. It's going to be really small, but it will be amazing." At first, I was stunned, but didn't say anything too judgmental. I mean, I love traveling and Italy sounds beautiful. But then he dropped the kicker. "Oh, and we decided it's adults only. So no kids and no family members who can't make it to Italy." I froze. I don't have kids, so that part wasn't a problem for me, but my mom does. She's getting on in years and has some mobility issues. There's no way she could go to Italy for a week-long wedding. I asked him about this, thinking maybe they could compromise, like letting her come for just the ceremony or something small. Jake said, "I know, but we can't really make exceptions. It's a tiny venue. Emily really wants this to be just our closest friends, and honestly, it would be awkward for her to fly halfway across the world and have family who can't be there." I try to explain how hurt my mom would be. She's been looking forward to her only son's wedding for years and has literally been dreaming about it since Jake got engaged. She's been saving money just to contribute to the wedding expenses, thinking it would be local. My brother said, "I get that, but it's really our day. We've spent months planning this, and we're just excited to do it this way." I felt like I was being dismissed. I brought it up multiple times, telling him that while I respect his choices, cutting off family who can't travel is harsh. I also said that as his sister, I couldn't justify spending thousands of dollars to fly across the world just for one weekend when my mom can't attend. He got annoyed and said, "You're making this about your mom. This isn't about her. This is about us. You should support us instead of whining about it." At that point, I started to get upset. I felt like he was turning the wedding into a private affair that intentionally excluded family who couldn't afford or manage a destination wedding. I said, "If you want me to support you, I can't do it in person. I'm happy to help in other ways, like helping plan, send decorations, or even video the ceremony, but I can't justify flying to Italy for a wedding that my mom can't attend." Jake didn't take it well. He accused me of being selfish and said I was letting my mom guilt me into abandoning him. Emily chimed in through a text later, saying they had dreamed about this wedding for years, and anyone who can't make it is just not meant to be there. I felt really hurt. I called my mom to talk about it, and she cried, saying she understands why I wouldn't go and that she doesn't want me to feel obligated to spend all that money. I also reached out to my other siblings and cousins. Most of them were on the same page as me, saying a destination wedding is a personal choice, but expecting family to pay for it is kind of unreasonable. Now, Jake is furious. He's posted passive-aggressive things on social media about family not supporting him and says I'm being dramatic. He's also hinting that this is the end of our sibling bond if I don't attend. My parents are upset too, but they also understand my side. I feel guilty because I don't want to hurt him, but I also feel like the way he's handling this is completely unfair. I have offered to contribute financially in other ways, like helping with the villa rental or sending gifts, but he says if you can't come in person, you can't really contribute. I honestly don't know if I'm the asshole here. I feel like I'm being reasonable and supporting him in ways I can, but he's making it seem like attending in person is the only way to show support. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to go to my brother's destination wedding after he excluded my mom and basically forced everyone into a huge trip. AITA for telling my sister that she can't bring her newborn to my wedding. 27F, am getting married in a few months, and while I'm excited about it, planning has been stressful, to put it lightly. My fiancé, 28M, and I decided early on that our wedding would be relatively small, about 80 guests. Most of the people invited are immediate family and a few close friends. We made a conscious decision not to invite kids under 12, because we wanted it to be more of an adult celebration. I know some people might judge us for that, but we both agreed that we wanted our day to be more about the adults who are part of our lives. Now, my sister, 25F, recently had her first baby. She and her husband live in another state, and the baby is about 3 months old right now. A couple weeks ago, she called me and said she was planning to come to the wedding. I told her she was, of course, invited, but I reminded her that we aren't having children there. She immediately started crying on the phone, saying that she didn't want to be separated from her baby, that traveling with a newborn is stressful, and that she wasn't willing to leave the baby behind. I tried to explain again that our wedding is child-free, but she kept insisting that she should be able to bring her child because she just had the baby and this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. I tried to reason with her calmly. I told her that while I love her and understand her attachment to the baby, it's important to me that the event goes the way we planned. I even offered a compromise. She could come to the rehearsal dinner and take lots of photos and videos of the ceremony so she could feel included. But she refused. She said it wasn't fair to expect her to be away from the baby for even a few hours, and she started saying things like, "You're choosing your fiancé over your family," and "I can't believe you'd put a party over me and your niece." I was honestly shocked. I told her that no one is putting anything over her or her child, and that I am still her sister and love her, but that this is my wedding day and I have to enforce rules for the event. She ended the call crying, and since then, our entire family has been messaging me. Some are saying I should let her bring the baby because it's just a few hours and that I'm being unreasonable. Others are saying I'm right to stick to our plans, but I can tell my stance is upsetting a lot of people. Last night, she sent me a long text calling me selfish, cruel, and the worst sister ever. She said she feels like she has to choose between supporting me or staying with her child, and that she doesn't think she can attend the wedding now. I haven't responded because I don't know what to say. Part of me feels guilty. Maybe I'm being too rigid, but another part of me thinks that if I make an exception for her, it will set a precedent for everyone else, and then I'll have babies crawling around at my ceremony and reception, which I really don't want. Fiancé is fully on my side, and he says I shouldn't feel guilty because this is our day and we should stick to the rules we set. He also reminded me that there will be plenty of pictures and videos for my sister to see later. I know that my sister is struggling because this is her first baby, and I get that she wants to be there with her child, but I also feel like she's not respecting my wishes for my wedding. The more I think about it, the more stressed I get. I'm worried that if I respond to her or try to compromise further, it will just escalate into an argument that will ruin the lead up to the wedding. At the same time, I feel like I'm being painted as the villain in front of my family, and I hate that. I want to enjoy my wedding without guilt, but I also don't want my sister to feel completely hurt and alienated. So Reddit, AITA for telling my sister she cannot bring her newborn to my wedding? The wedding is less than 4 months away, and I feel like this situation is only getting worse the more we talk about it. I haven't blocked her or anything, but I've basically stopped responding to texts that are just insults. I'm not sure if there's a way to resolve this without someone ending up resentful. I know this might seem petty to some, but this is my biggest day so far, and I've been working really hard to make it everything I want it to be. I just wish my sister could understand that and not make me feel like I'm choosing my fiancé over her. Has anyone been in a similar situation? How do you enforce boundaries without completely destroying your relationship with your sibling? AITA for refusing to cover my sister's wedding expenses, even though she insists I'm being ungrateful. I, 27F, have always been very close with my family, especially my younger sister, Lily, 24F. We grew up in a middle-class household, and our parents have always done their best to support us. Our relationship has generally been good, but things have started to get tense over money, specifically regarding her upcoming wedding. Lily got engaged about 6 months ago, and from the start, she has been very clear about wanting a big, dream wedding. The kind of wedding that costs tens of thousands of dollars, with a massive venue, professional planners, and all the bells and whistles. She knows I have a stable job as a graphic designer, and she's been dropping hints about me helping out financially. At first, I thought she meant a small contribution, like helping with invitations or some minor decor. I even offered to help design the invitations for free, which she appreciated. But then, Over the past few months, her hints turned into more direct statements. She said things like, your parents helped me pay for college. Maybe you can help me with this. Or, I don't know how we're going to afford the photographer if you don't chip in. At first, I laughed it off as her joking, but it kept escalating. I don't want to be rude, but I genuinely cannot afford to contribute thousands of dollars to her wedding. I have my own rent, loans, and daily expenses to manage. I tried explaining this to her calmly, saying, Lily, I can help with planning, advice, or design stuff, but I really don't have the money to cover large parts of the wedding. I even suggested alternative ways I could contribute, like helping DIY decorations or managing the wedding playlist. Her reaction shocked me. She started crying on the phone and told me that I was being so ungrateful because our parents supposedly gave me so much growing up, and now I can't even support her in return. She also mentioned that our parents said I should do my part because it's my sister's big day, and that by refusing, I was making everyone else feel awkward and disappointed. I was honestly floored. First of all, I've never been in a position where I could afford something like this without sacrificing my basic living needs. Second, I feel like this is a huge, unfair expectation. Helping her plan, designing stuff, giving advice, or even throwing a small pre-wedding party I can manage is one thing. But she's treating my refusal to hand over a significant portion of my salary as a moral failing. Things have gotten worse. I told our parents about the situation because I thought they might help mediate, and they ended up calling me selfish. They didn't explicitly demand money, but they basically implied that families should support each other in these ways, and that I was being short-sighted. Lily, meanwhile, has stopped talking to me as much and keeps posting cryptic messages on social media about people not supporting her dreams, clearly directed at me. I've tried reasoning multiple times, saying that weddings are expensive and that I can support her emotionally and creatively, but not financially. She's accused me of valuing money over family, and even said, I thought we were close, but maybe I was wrong. Our other siblings have tried to stay neutral, but some have subtly sided with her, saying things like, well, if it were me, I would help. I know they mean well, but it makes me feel like I'm being ganged up on. Here's the kicker. Lily has also made a few passive-aggressive remarks about everyone else chipping in, and I guess some people just don't care about family milestones. She hasn't outright asked for more money in the past week, probably because she's waiting for me to cave under pressure. I've decided I won't. I have saved for my own future and have financial goals that would be completely derailed if I gave her the amount she expects. Now I feel trapped. I don't want to ruin my relationship with Lily, but at the same time, I feel like she and some of my family are being unreasonable. Am I really the asshole for refusing to pay for her wedding when it's well beyond my means? I know some people might argue that weddings are once in a lifetime, events and families are supposed to support each other, but I genuinely feel like this is an unfair expectation of me. I'm willing to contribute in ways that I can, just not financially to the extent she wants. AITA for setting boundaries around my finances, even if it disappoints my sister and makes my parents uncomfortable. AITA for not inviting my sister to my wedding because of her past behavior with my fiancé. So, this is a long one, and it's complicated. I, 28F, have been with my fiancé, James, 30M, for 6 years. We're finally getting married next year. My sister, Emily, 32F, has always had a bit of a dramatic streak, but I thought she and James had moved past a rough period we had during the early years of our relationship. Apparently, I was wrong. A little background. When James and I first started dating, Emily was incredibly critical of him. She would make snide comments about his job, the way he dressed, and even how he treated me. At first, I tried to brush it off, but it escalated. She went so far as to tell me she didn't think he was good enough for me and even tried to set me up with someone else she thought was a better fit. James was always polite around her, but it clearly annoyed him, and honestly, it made me start noticing flaws in him that weren't even real. It caused a lot of tension between all three of us. Eventually, I had a serious talk with Emily about her behavior. She apologized, saying she was just worried about me and that she didn't realize she was being so harsh. We tried to move on. Over the past few years, she has mostly been fine, and we've rebuilt our relationship somewhat. She has a tendency to be dramatic, but I thought it was manageable. Fast forward to a few months ago, when James proposed. I was ecstatic, and of course, Emily was one of the first people I told. At first, she seemed genuinely happy, which I appreciated. But then she started making comments that I found increasingly uncomfortable. She said things like, "I hope you know marrying him means you're stuck with all his flaws," or "I still think you could do better." I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe she was just joking or trying to tease me in her usual way. Then came the breaking point. We had a small engagement party at my parents' house, just close family and a few friends. Emily arrived late, which I thought was weird but not a huge deal. When she got there, she cornered James and started asking him about his past relationships in detail. Not the casual stuff, but really invasive questions, trying to dig up anything embarrassing or shameful. James looked uncomfortable, and I asked her to stop, but she laughed it off and said she was just curious. Later, she went around the party and made several comments to our friends, subtly undermining James, saying things like, "I don't know why she's marrying him. She can do so much better," all under the guise of honest advice. I was furious. I felt like she was intentionally trying to humiliate James in front of everyone. I confronted her that night after the party. She got defensive, saying I was overreacting and that she was just expressing her opinion. I reminded her that this was supposed to be a celebration and that her comments were hurtful and inappropriate. She shrugged it off and told me I was being too sensitive. After that, I started seriously reconsidering whether I wanted her at the wedding. I talked to James about it, and he said he didn't want her there either. He loves my sister, but he doesn't want to deal with her drama on what should be the happiest day of our lives. I felt torn because she is my sister, and family is important to me, but I also realized that inviting her could potentially ruin the day. I decided to be upfront. I sent Emily a message explaining that I loved her and valued her as my sister, but after a lot of thought, I didn't feel comfortable having her at the wedding. I told her I would love for her to be involved in other ways, like helping me with planning or attending pre-wedding events that were smaller, but I didn't want her at the ceremony or reception. Her reaction was explosive. She accused me of family betrayal, saying I was being unfair and that I was punishing her for something she had already apologized for years ago. She called me controlling and said I was choosing my fiancé over my family. She's now refusing to speak to me, and my parents are upset, saying I'm overreacting and that I should just let it go for the sake of the wedding. My friends mostly side with me, saying they've seen her behavior and understand why I'm cautious. I feel incredibly guilty because I don't want to lose my relationship with my sister, but I also feel like I need to protect my fiancé and our special day. I've tried to compromise by offering other ways for her to be involved, but she refuses to see it that way. So, Reddit, AITA for not inviting my sister to my wedding because of her past behavior and her continued disrespect toward my fiancé. AITA for refusing to include my sister's fiancé in my wedding after a huge argument. I, 27F, have been planning my wedding for over a year. My fiancé, Sam, 28M, and I have been together for 6 years, and our wedding is supposed to be next spring. I've been meticulous about the guest list and the overall vibe of the wedding. My family is fairly large, but I've managed to keep the guest list to people who are close to both of us, and I've been really thoughtful about balancing families, friends, and coworkers. Everything seemed to be going well until my sister, Jenna, 25F, got engaged. Jenna has always been a little dramatic, but she's my little sister, and I wanted to be supportive. Her fiancé, Matt, 26M, is complicated. He has a history of being controlling and manipulative, though he's been on his best behavior since the engagement. I was skeptical, but decided to give him a chance. When they got engaged, I congratulated them, offered to help with planning, and even suggested we could coordinate so the wedding dates didn't conflict, since our family is quite intertwined. A few months ago, I sent Jenna and Matt a formal invitation to our wedding. The invitation included Matt, as you would expect. But the next day, Jenna called me, furious. She said that Matt was not comfortable being around my extended family because of some past disagreements with my mom and stepdad. I was confused because I've never had an issue with Matt other than some red flags that I thought I could ignore for the sake of family peace. I told Jenna that the wedding was important to Sam and me and that we wanted all immediate family there, including her fiancé. She insisted that if Matt couldn't come, she wouldn't come either. I tried reasoning with her, explaining that this was our wedding and that it wasn't fair to exclude people just because of Matt. Jenna got really defensive, saying that I was picking sides and disrespecting her relationship. We went back and forth for days, and the tension started affecting my planning. I didn't want an ultimatum hanging over my wedding, but I also didn't want to exclude my sister. The tipping point came when Matt showed up unannounced at my apartment. He had apparently decided to come over to talk things out with me, even though I had clearly stated that I didn't want him involved in the wedding planning. When I told him he couldn't just show up like that, he accused me of being petty and jealous of his relationship with my sister. I finally snapped and told him that he would not be invited to the wedding under any circumstances, and that if Jenna wanted to come, she needed to come alone. Jenna was livid. She cried, yelled, and accused me of trying to control her life and of ruining our relationship. She blocked me on social media and hasn't spoken to me in weeks. Our parents are frustrated with both of us, trying to mediate, but it's been tense. I feel guilty for hurting my sister, but at the same time, I feel like this is my wedding, and I shouldn't have to compromise my boundaries to accommodate someone who has a history of problematic behavior. Sam supports me completely, and a few of my friends say I did the right thing, but my mom keeps asking if I can just make a small exception to keep the peace. I don't want to give in because I feel like it would set a precedent that my sister or anyone else can dictate who comes to my wedding. But I also hate that my relationship with Jenna might be permanently damaged over this. I've thought about letting her come without Matt, but I know she might refuse, and I don't want to risk her making a scene at the wedding. So, AITA for refusing to invite my sister's fiancé to my wedding, knowing that it might cost me my relationship with her. Character count, 6,331 if you want. I can write a longer version hitting closer to 7,000 characters with more drama, family tension, and detailed wedding planning conflicts to really emulate the top viral AITA stories. Do you want me to do that? AITA for potentially ruining my sister's wedding because I refused to lie about my involvement in a mishap. I, 27F, have always been close to my younger sister, Lily, 24F. We grew up in a small town, and despite having very different personalities, we always had each other's backs. Lily is very detail-oriented and perfectionistic, while I tend to be more spontaneous and sometimes careless, but I always try to be supportive. Lily got engaged last year to her fiancé, Ryan, 26M. From the start, she made it very clear that she wanted a very picture-perfect wedding. I was thrilled for her and offered to help wherever I could. I was involved in planning, sending invites, decorating, and even helped coordinate a few of the pre-wedding events. I thought I was doing a good job. About a month before the wedding, Lily asked me to help with the final touches for the reception. Part of my task was to help set up the centerpieces. These were a combination of floral arrangements and delicate candle holders that were ordered online. The plan was that the flowers and holders would be assembled the day before the wedding and ready for the reception hall. I'll admit I'm not great with fragile things, but I felt confident that I could handle this task. I got the items delivered to my apartment because the reception hall had a strict schedule, and I thought it would be easier to assemble them at home first. I spent several hours carefully arranging each centerpiece. Everything seemed fine until I picked up the last box of candle holders. One of the holders slipped out of my hands and shattered completely on the floor. I was horrified. Not only had I ruined part of the decorations, but some of the pieces were part of a set that was custom ordered and couldn't be replaced in time. I immediately texted Lily to explain what happened. I fully expected her to be upset, but I thought honesty was better than trying to hide it. Her reaction, however, was worse than I anticipated. She started yelling at me over text, calling me careless and irresponsible, and insisted that this was exactly why she didn't want me to handle anything important. I tried to apologize sincerely, explaining that it was an accident and that I would cover the cost of replacements. Then she sent me a follow-up text that really threw me off. She said she was going to tell everyone that the damage happened during shipping, not because of me. She wanted me to lie and take the blame away from myself in front of family and friends. I felt conflicted. On one hand, I understood why she wanted to avoid a scene and keep the wedding perfect. On the other hand, Lying about it made me feel like I would be complicit in a dishonesty that I wasn't comfortable with. I told her that I couldn't lie. I said I would take responsibility and apologize publicly if necessary. Lily exploded over the phone. She accused me of trying to ruin her wedding and said I was being dramatic. She said I had no right to force her to tell the truth because the wedding was her special day. She also mentioned that our parents and extended family were already upset and stressed, and my insistence on honesty was making things worse. I tried reasoning with her, saying that being truthful wouldn't ruin the day completely, and that accident happened. She refused to listen and basically told me that if I couldn't go along with her plan, I shouldn't be involved in the wedding at all. I felt hurt, but also guilty because I didn't want to make things worse. I offered to step back and let her handle the decorations herself. She reluctantly agreed, but continued to give me silent treatment for days. On the day of the wedding, I did my best to stay in the background. I helped with minor tasks and avoided interacting much with the family. Lily's wedding was beautiful, but I noticed that she didn't speak to me much and avoided eye contact. After the ceremony, our parents pulled me aside and asked why there was tension between us. I tried to explain the situation, but they seemed to side with her, saying that the wedding was her day and she had the right to manage everything as she saw fit. Now, a month later, Lily hasn't fully spoken to me. Our parents occasionally try to mediate, but she refuses to discuss it. I feel like I did the right thing by being honest, but I also feel like I might have overstepped by refusing to go along with her plan. Some friends have told me that I'm being unreasonable for expecting her to publicly admit something that would embarrass her, while others say that honesty is always the right choice. I am stuck. I want my relationship with my sister back, but I also don't want to compromise my principles by lying, even for a wedding. I feel like I'm being punished for trying to do the right thing, and I keep wondering if I should have just stayed silent and let her tell the story her way. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to lie about breaking the wedding decorations, even though it caused tension with my sister and may have put her wedding at risk. AITA for refusing to let my sister's husband be involved in my son's birthday party after he embarrassed me in front of my family. I, 34F, have a son, Ethan, who just turned 6. My sister, Claire, 36F, has been married to her husband, Derek, 38M, for about 5 years. I've always had a polite but distant relationship with Derek. He's the kind of guy who tries really hard to be funny, but often misses the mark, especially around family events. My family is very close-knit, and we take our gatherings seriously, especially milestone events like birthdays. Ethan's birthday was last week, and I have been planning it for months. I rented a small party space at a local children's museum, invited close family and a few friends from school, and was very particular about decorations, games, and the schedule. I wanted it to be special for Ethan without the chaos of too many adults trying to help. I told my family ahead of time that I wanted it to be kid-focused, and that included a clear no embarrassing adult antics rule, because the last party Derek had attended ended with him performing a magic trick that involved pretending to be a pirate and accidentally scaring half the kids. The party started fine. The kids were playing, the decorations looked great, and I was in my element making sure Ethan was having fun. Claire and Derek arrived about 15 minutes after it began. Claire was fine, but Derek immediately started trying to engage with the kids in what I could only describe as over-the-top entertainer mode. He pulled out a set of juggling balls and started juggling them with no warning, hitting one of the decorations and knocking over a stack of gift bags. I laughed it off at first, thinking maybe he was just excited, but he then proceeded to attempt a funny game where he tried to toss foam swords at the kids while making sound effects. One of Ethan's friends got scared and started crying, and I had to step in to calm him down. I politely asked Derek to tone it down and let the kids enjoy their own games, but he ignored me. It escalated when he decided to do an impromptu talent show, with himself as the main act. He went up in front of all the parents and started performing what he claimed was a comedy routine. Honestly, it was awkward, loud, and full of jokes that were more embarrassing than funny. He even tried to roast me lightly in front of everyone, which made me furious. I told him to stop, but he shrugged it off and said, "I'm just making the party more fun." I ended up having to intervene twice more, taking Derek aside and telling him that if he couldn't respect my rules, he would need to leave. He reluctantly agreed, but his attitude was sour for the rest of the party. The rest of the party went fine after that, and the kids had a good time, but the tension lingered. After the party, Claire called me, upset. She said that I was too harsh on Derek and that he was just trying to make Ethan's birthday more fun. She said that I embarrassed him by telling him to leave and that it created drama in front of the family. I told her that my priority was Ethan and the kids, not adult antics, and that I had clearly set boundaries ahead of time. I also pointed out that Derek had been warned multiple times. Claire accused me of overreacting and said that next time I should be more flexible and let Derek have fun too. I replied that there likely won't be a next time involving him if he can't respect basic rules, especially since the last two parties he's attended ended with him creating chaos or embarrassing me. Claire got defensive and hung up. Since then, other family members have chimed in. My parents say I handled it well because I was protecting the kids, but my aunt and uncle think I should have let him be part of the fun. Claire has barely spoken to me, and Derek has sent a couple of passive-aggressive texts about how I ruined his chance to bond with Ethan. I feel conflicted because I hate family drama, but at the same time, I know that if Derek had been allowed to continue, Ethan's birthday would have been ruined. I am now planning Ethan's next birthday, and I'm seriously considering not inviting Derek at all. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's husband continue his antics at my son's birthday party, and for considering excluding him from future events. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her boyfriend to my wedding after he embarrassed me in front of my family. This has been eating at me for weeks, and I feel like I need an outside perspective because my friends are all divided on this. I, 28F, am getting married in about 3 months, and my sister, let's call her Megan, 26F, has been with her boyfriend, Ryan, 27M, for about a year. Our families are close, and we've always had these big, loud family gatherings where everyone kind of knows everyone else's quirks. Usually, that's fine, but Ryan has issues. Here's what happened. About 6 months ago, my parents hosted a big summer barbecue. Megan brought Ryan. He had already been making weird, borderline rude jokes about me and my fiancé, Chris, 29M, and my family, but I tried to ignore it because I thought maybe he was nervous. That is, until he made a comment about my fiancé's job and my life choices in front of my entire extended family. He said, and I quote, "Wow, you're really marrying into mediocrity, huh?" Not that I expected much from you anyway. There was dead silence. Everyone looked shocked. I was humiliated. I tried to laugh it off, but my cheeks were on fire, and I literally had to go inside to pull myself together. Megan didn't defend me. She just awkwardly laughed and told him to stop. My parents were obviously furious, but didn't want to start a fight. After that, I told Megan I didn't want Ryan at any family events unless he could control his behavior. She promised he would behave, and for a while, I let it slide. Then came my bridal shower. I was excited, had invited a bunch of close family and friends, and again, Megan insisted Ryan attend. I told her I wasn't comfortable with it, given how he had acted before. She said she understood, but it's only fair for him to be there since he's been part of her life. I explained that fairness didn't mean he could come if it made me and my guests uncomfortable. At the bridal shower, Ryan somehow managed to drink too much and loudly criticized the catering, the decorations, and even my bridesmaids' dresses. At one point, he loudly whispered to Megan, "This is all so over the top. She doesn't even deserve this." Again, everyone went quiet, and I had to ask him to leave. Megan stormed out with him, leaving me to clean up the mess, emotionally and literally. After that, I was done. I called Megan and said Ryan would not be allowed at the wedding, period. Megan flipped. She started saying I was being controlling, that I didn't trust her judgment, and that it was family, so I should let him come. She even implied that if I didn't allow him, she might not come to the wedding herself. My fiancé backed me up completely and said this was not negotiable, but Megan has been sending guilt-tripping texts, calling me selfish, and even hinting that my parents are disappointed in me. Honestly, I don't believe they are. I think Megan is twisting things. I feel like I'm being completely reasonable. This is my wedding, my special day. I don't want someone there who has humiliated me multiple times in front of people I care about. Chris and I have agreed that boundaries are important, and we do not want any chance of this turning into a disaster during the ceremony or reception. I've even offered that Megan could attend alone, or we could do a small pre-wedding dinner with her and Ryan if she insists, but she refuses anything that separates them. Here's the part that's causing me anxiety. My parents keep saying they understand my position, but also hint that weddings are supposed to be about family, not grudges. My friends are split. Some say I'm right to protect myself and my day. Others say I'm too harsh and that I should just let it go for Megan's sake. I love my sister, and I hate that this is turning into a massive argument. But at the same time, I'm terrified of the idea of Ryan making another humiliating scene in front of everyone I love on my wedding day. It's supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and I feel like it's fair to set boundaries that ensure it stays that way. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to allow my sister's boyfriend to attend my wedding after his repeated embarrassing behavior. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.